Tuesday. That can only mean that the team list for the NRL Round 11 are out. Of course, we're going to be talking through a lot of the major casualties from the fallout of Magic Round, round number 10, and all those players that are going to be missing, taking you through the team list, giving our tips and predictions for the games as well. As ever, joining me is Luke Jobson, helping me go through all the games. How are you doing, mate?
Good, mate. Very good. It's been a hectic teamless Tuesday, that's for sure. There's plenty to get through, and yeah, no better time like the present to run through it.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll jump straight into Thursday night's game then, and that's the Cowboys taking on the Knights. You got the team list going across the bottom there. For the Cowboys, the big absentee, of course, Cohen Hess, first victim of round 10. You know, it's got to be said, the Cowboys looked pretty good last week. Came up short against a pretty scrappy Roosters side who were, held together by masking tape at the best of times this season, and with the amount of injuries that they've got going on. But the Roosters are never an easy team to play, but the Cowboys stuck with it far better than the Knights stuck with the Tigers, to say the least. And the Cowboys didn't look terrible, did they?
No, I said it in last week's Teamless Tuesday preview that the Cowboys have looked the best they have probably since, well, I don't think I said since JT's retirement, but I think it's at that point where I can say that. Their halves are starting to gel. Their forward pack is starting to look a little bit more like a gelled forward pack and not just Jason Taumalolo and company. Val Holmes is very much looking like he's in the form that he was pre-NFL. I mean, even Jake Clifford, who at the start of the year, alongside Josh Drinkwater, had questions about his form. He's now stepped up in a big way. As you mentioned, against a Roosters side that I don't know, masking tape might be bit strong there. We might have to call it A4 paper, mate. Some paper mache. But I mean, you just look at all the talent in the Roosters. Even their second stringers are as starters at 12 of 16 clubs in the NRL. So they're not an easy beat by any stretch. Looking at the Knights, still no Ponga, no. So Hoy remains at fullback. I don't know. This is a tough one. It's not the most appealing game to kick off round 11, I will say, but it's a tough one to pick. You go and look at this, kind of second string halves combination for the Knights in Kurt Mann and Phoenix Crossland, and you question kind of whether they're able to really make an impact in attack now that there is no Ponga. You question how Connor Watson's going to be used. He's by far their most dangerous player in attack, but he's in the 14. But you can't drop him at the expense of Mitch Barnett, because Barnett could be the goal kicker this week. And he's one of their most dangerous forwards. He's a versatile forward who can play really 8 through 13, and if he needs to, can play in the centres. In terms of a tip, it's the Cowboys in better form, I think, than the Knights. They're in Townsville. It's coming up to Origin period. They know they're going to lose Val Holmes. They probably lose Kyle Felt. I'm going to go and say Cowboys 1-12 and kind of cop out a little bit and say Kyle Felt anytime try scorer. You can't go past Felt in Townsville.
Yeah, I join your line of thinking on the Cowboys 1-12. You go to the stats. Cowboys won 4 out of 10. Knights exactly the same. Points scored. Cowboys 181. Knights 179. Cowboys points conceded 285. Knights 256. You got two teams that are low scorers and can leak a few points. It's just those like 10-15 minute silly periods. You saw it with how poorly the Knights started against the Tigers, and when they really started to leak points through just switching off. Just realistically, they were really poor plays, and but yeah, I join you on Knights 1-12 there. I don't know why they're not using Blake Green. They got Blake Green in the 21 shirt there, down in the reserves. Who do you drop in his place? I'd probably say you push Crossland out of the side. I think he's still getting his feet in the first grade. I just don't think he's quite there yet. And I think having Blake Green and Kurt Mann there could really bring on a few players, bring a little bit of attacking structure to that spine and really firm things up. But obviously, I'm not an NRL coach. I don't get paid to pick the teams. But so they're running out with Hoy at fullback still. But I don't know. There was some questions over. I think it was his hamstring towards the back end of that game. So could potentially lose Hoy. I'm not sure, but I'm going to go Knights 1-12 and anytime try scorer. It's a lottery. Is this one? Bradman Best for me. I'm just going to say Bradman Best. There's no real logic behind it. I just think that he's probably due a try there. But Cowboys 1-12 and Bradman Best anytime try scorer.
I'm not opposed to that one for Bradman Best. Comes up against Jarvid Bowen, who is not overly good in defence. And Best close to the line is hard to stop at the best of teams. So adding a dodgy defender with an edge defence that hasn't been great, there's value there, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will crack on then and go straight to the next game. It is the Warriors versus the Tigers. This one's probably going to be one of the more interesting games of the week for me. I mean, the Tigers turned up last week, put on a bit of a shock, put on a bit of a display. I certainly didn't tip them against the Knights. And they turned up straight away, just started like a house on fire and just never really let up. The Warriors ran it close. The Warriors are such a hard side to tip for and against because you never know which Warriors side is going to turn up. The news came out in the week as well that when when Walsh comes off the bench, he will be going to fullback, and Tuivasa-Sheck will then start to get distributed around the field a little bit more. So, I mean, at some point, you're going to see Reece Walsh come on and he will be in the one shirt. It's just a case of how he goes there. The Tigers, they looked good last week. Like, you really can't take it. You can take nothing away from them. They looked when they looked like they were at their best, they looked like a potential bottom 8 team. Like, bottom end, like your 7th, 8th, 9th spot. Tigers love a good 9th spot, don't they? But they did look good for the most part, and it's so hard to tip this one. It really is. I get the feeling that the Warriors might just sneak this one, but you say that with not really much confidence. I mean, you got Montoya coming in, Aikens back from injury as well. Murchie comes in at the 11 shirt, so they're bringing back a little bit of talent as well of the Warriors.
Yeah, they do lose a little bit of talent as well. Josh Curran, a pretty nasty hyperextension of his right elbow. So he's out for up to a month while Marcelo Montoya replaces Rocco Berry, who failed his HIA last week. It's just, I don't know. I really don't. The Tigers, I saw this on Twitter 2 days ago. Someone was talking about the Warriors-Tigers match. And it's the question of whether you're going to see the Tigers of last week. Wow, I can't talk today. Last weekend. There we go. Or whether you see the Tigers from a couple of weeks ago down in Campbelltown where they got booed off at halftime. You just don't know. You really don't know. 1-17 for the Tigers, which is a miracle. I don't know how Maguire has done that, but he's gone 1-17. I'm going to go anytime try scorer first. I'm going to give you that tip, and I'm saying Cody Nikorima. He's a quick, elusive half. He plays at second receiver. If he can get on the outside of a Luke Garner, catch him kind of unawares, backpedaling a little bit, maybe if he swings around the back and goes the other side, goes in between Joey Leilua and Luciano, and you have Roger, sitting out the back, ready to pass off to Mamalo. Maybe Nikorima slips through. Definitely wouldn't put it past him. The other option, we saw the Warriors were a bit flimsy through the middle last week against Parramatta. Jacob Little scooting out a dummy half. Probably a value anytime try scorer bet. Team tip. No confidence. Warriors 1-12.
Yeah, the Warriors 1-12 is where I go on this one as well. You look at the Tigers. I mean, if the Tigers are going to win this one, it's going to be a slim margin. The Tigers have won 2 out of their last 5. Warriors exactly the same. The Tigers, any game that they've won out of their last 5 has been by no more than 6 points. 20-14 against the Dragons, 24-20 against the Cowboys. Neither of them are really premier sides. Yes, they got beat by the Storm, arguably one of your top 4 teams. Sea Eagles in an absolute premier, 32-38 in that one when you've got Tom Trebojevic popping out the back wherever he fancies. And then Eels last week. Warriors got wins against the Knights. Those were the Warriors results. Sorry, the Tigers, 36-18 against the Knights last week. 28-36 loss against the Titans. 16-8 against the Dragons as well. A 40-6 loss against the Sea Eagles and a 14-18 loss against the Rabbitohs. So they're in similar veins of form. Both teams have a tendency to hemorrhage points through just little periods in the game. Can be so unpredictable. I genuinely hate tipping this game. I'm going to say with very little no confidence, Warriors 1-12. It's going to be a slim margin. I can't see either team blowing this one out, but anytime try scorer, I'm going to say Aitken. I'm going to say Aitken gets over on the edge. He's coming up against Dewey, who's a substantially smaller man. Yes, Adam Dewey is a fullback by trade and can play in the halves as well. He's got a decent tackle technique on him, but you've seen Aitken's just got that freakish power close to the line. He's just one of them compact, explosive players. Warriors get to the edge, 10 metres out. You're not stopping you and Aitken. So I'm going to say him for an anytime try scorer there. I like the fact that the Tigers have seen they're going on the premise of if it's not broke, don't fix it. So you see Dewey in the centre again. We both questioned why Dewey was in the centre last week. He'd done a sturdy job at fullback, and Dane Laurie was still finding his feet there. But he showed his attacking prowess. He saw with that little kick through for Tamo's try. Just what it brings, the level of unpredictability and the structure that he brings, just roaming around in that centre spot. So I still feel that the Warriors have got this though. So yeah, Warriors 1-12. Aitken anytime try scorer for me.
Fair call.
Yep. Okay, I think we're unanimous on that one. So we'll go to the Sharks against the Dragons, and as expected, no Sean Johnson named in the squad this week. He wasn't playing last week anyway. Pulled out just the day before the game, and Moylan obviously slotted into that shirt. Moylan is named in the 6 this time, so that brings Trindle, I think, has come to the bench from last week's squad. And for the Dragons, substantially more changes. Cody Ramsey in at fullback. You got no Matt Duffy. Pereira's back on the wing. You've got no Ravalawa this week. Burns from the bench to the centre. You've got your bench of Ellis, Hunt, Alvaro, and Amon. No Josh McGuire as well, another victim of the judiciary panel. So big changes for the Dragons here.
Big changes for the Dragons, and an easy tip for me, Sharks 13+. Matt Moylan looked okay in the halves last week. Didn't look great, but did enough, did his job. William Kennedy, I think, is going to have a field day parading around the edges there in attack. It wouldn't surprise me if the likes of Hiroti and Connor Tracy both get doubles. Whoever's on Jordan Pereira's side is going to have a double. That is my tip. I think it's going to be Hiroti there. They do. The Sharks do have what I think is a substantially better forward pack. Not only starting, but on the bench. You've got Teague Wilton, Jack Williams, and Andrew Fafita on the bench for the Sharks to go with Rudolph, Graham, Nakora, Woods, Tolman, Brayley. Majority of those have played rep footy at some point in their career. You go against that, you have Blake Laurie, not bad, serviceable. McCulloch, a journeyman. Vaughan has played rep footy, and then you have Kerr, Ford, and Farmasili. Powasa hasn't played a lot of football this year, has not made a big impact. And then you have Ellis, the debutant, and Jaden Hunt, Dan Alvaro, and Junior Amon. It just doesn't scream points. The Dragons do not scream points to me this week. They did last week. They have for a couple of weeks. But no Dufty is a big loss, and you saw when he came off that the Dragons' attack went kaput. They do have the option of potentially dropping Pereira out of the side, sending Ramsey back to the wing, and playing Beale in the centres with Bird at fullback. But even then, I just don't see the Dragons having a lot of attack. A lot of it will fall on Ben Hunt and Corey Norman to create their own sort of attacking prowess, and I just don't see it happening. Yeah, anytime try scorer. Like I said, pick whichever winger is going to go up against Pereira. I think it's Hiroti, and put him down for a double.
Okay, that's an ambitious shout. There's a lot of ambitious calls in there. I join your line of thinking. I think the Sharks win this one. Too many changes for the Dragons. No Ravalawa, so they've lost that power close to the line. Burns is not an outright centre. He's used to playing in the second row. Yes, he can play centre, but again, you see it all the time in the NRL when you have an unfamiliar centre wing partnership. One of them tends to bite in, and that'll drag another player in. Pereira has a tendency to bite in, so I'd say that Hirot is definitely due if he lines up opposite him. Again, on the other side, Figai and Bird, 3 games together they've had. Ramsey at fullback, I don't know how he's going to command that back line and really order that structure around, especially when you've got a player as good as Matt Dufty out. You've seen it. I think it was maybe a year, 2 years ago, there was huge question marks around whether Dufty was good enough. He was missing tackles. His commitment wasn't maybe there. And then all of a sudden, Dufty explodes onto the scene and he shuts everybody up. And ever since, he's been one of the Dragons' best. And when you get him coming onto a ball and he manages to check the line a little bit and find that gap, you're just not catching him. Yes, Ramsey's got speed, but is he as agile going at the line as Matt Dufty? No, definitely not. So I think they've lost a real threat on their kick return game there. The Sharks, in previous seasons, we've seen they've got points in them. The Sharks have always been good for a decent amount of points, which is a problem considering that their defense is, also good for an amount of points. You see it this season. Sharks 182 scored, 258 conceded. Dragons 211 scored, 213 conceded. So the Dragons have been slightly more consistent. Sharks without winning their last 5. Dragons just a 1. Coming up against the Bulldogs, that were a 32-12 win. But again, a win against the Bulldogs is nothing to write home about. But saying that, the Sharks have experienced a 12-18 loss against the Bulldogs in there as well. But the Sharks are due. I think they are due. I think they've been read the riot act on enough occasions now to know that they need to get their act together, because their finals hopes are going to fade very, very quickly. And I think that they get up on the Dragons here. I'm not going to say a winning margin here. I just think there's going to be points in this one. I can see this one going for 46, for over 46.5. I mean, what's the line on this one?
I can't say I've got Sportsbet up, but if I had to hazard a guess, give me a minute. I can tell you, you grumpy old man. If I had to hazard a guess, I would imagine that it would be something around a 42.5 to 44.5. I can tell you in about T-minus 30 seconds. I can tell you that Hiroti for a double is about $3.30, probably a bit more. What do we have? Total match points. Cronulla, 44.5.
44.5. I'd say that goes over. I mean, even when you go to the previous results, the last 2 matchups between these two, Sharks 32-18 win, Sharks 28-24 win. There's points in this game. There's always points in this game, and especially with a wilted Dragons defense as well. So that's going to be what I put on that one, because otherwise I'm just going to end up following you on your Hiroti tip, but just putting him down for a single. But I say that one goes over the 42.5 on that. All
right. Well, for anyone that is curious and wants to throw on our tips on that one, I know we haven't pulled this one out in a hot minute, but over 44.5 and Hiroti for a double. Put that in a multi, $10. Hiroti paying $4.50 for a double.
Okay then. And with that, then we'll go to the Titans versus the Bulldogs. Obviously, the Titans having a rough day at the office last week, coming up against Penrith. It's always a rough day at the office when you've got to face Penrith. That's just unassailable at the minute. They are ridiculous. Masters coming into the centre is the only real change of note in their squad. Firmer into the second, going up into the second row out of centre. Fotowaker coming off the bench. You've got Clark, Stone, Jolliffe and McIntyre. The Jermaine Hopgood misses out this week for the Titans. As for the Bulldogs, you go down to their side. Again, you will notice that there is no Kyle Flanagan. It looks like they are remaining strong on that one. So they're running out with Wakeham Avarillo in the halves, and notable debut for Shoop coming in the 4 shirt. I've seen plenty of hype around him online, and especially with him being named now, it seems that everybody seems to want to give him big preps. 6 tries, I think it is, in the NSW Cup, and averaging out at 146 meters playing in the centres. That seems like a decent turnaround and a decent return on an investment in your youth. Does that? So looking forward to seeing how he goes. Sio Manafanai off the bench this week into the 8 shirt, and he just basically swapped spots with Dylan Napa, who was going to be donning the 17 shirt this week.
I'm so glad we're live, so I can go back and watch you say a Titans player who played for Penrith last week didn't make the 17. Jermaine Hopgood is a Panthers player, my friend.
Oh, geez, what have I just done? Oh, no. I've had a shock.
Yes.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh, what a way to kickstart.
This is the risk of doing lives.
Love to see it. Aaron, plenty of hype around him. Looking forward to see what he can do. He comes up against Brian Kelly and Isan Masters. It's a serviceable pair in the centres for the Titans. Nothing to write home about, but also nothing that you can really give a lot of crap for. Masters not great in defence, but he comes up against Will Hopewadi, who isn't the most threatening man in attack as well. So we'll see how that one goes. Adam Elliott to the bench, which I find interesting. Matt Dury goes into the 11. Tino Farmasili, Fasua Malawi. Sorry, I've had a shocker there. He takes Pete's spot in the 13, and as you said, Fotowaker comes into the 10. Tips. Upset. Bulldogs over Titans.
Brain explosion. You've had a brain explosion. I don't know what you've just said. I'm going to give you, you know what? I'm going to be kind. I'm going to give you an opportunity to double back on what you just said. I'm going to give you that opportunity, and I suggest you take it.
I'm going with my gut. I think as much as Hopewadi isn't a fantastic attacker, he still gets around Masters once or twice. Tanner Boyd is a jinking sort of 5'8", but played very lateral last week. You can't do that against any side. They could be the first. They could be the comp leaders, or they could be the wooden spoon. You can't run 30 meters laterally and not make a meter out of it. It's a rejig forward pack for the Titans. Yes, they have representative power with Proctor, with Fasul Malawi, with Wallace. Fotowaker at some point will make his rep debut if he hasn't already. But I think the Bulldogs pack offers more grunt, to be completely honest. Sia Manafanai and Luke Thompson are having relatively good seasons for the Bulldogs. Sia Manafanai has improved as a player over the last couple of weeks at the Bulldogs. Thompson has been their best forward. They still have pretty good forwards in Waddell, Adam Elliott, and Dylan Napa on the bench. I don't think you can say the same for the Titans. Sam McIntyre has an offload. Jolliffe probably should be starting, but isn't. Aaron Clark and Sam Stone aren't much to write home about. Avarillo isn't a 7, but he's doing his job. He is doing his job, and I think now that Wakeham has had that first game of the season under his belt, he's got himself back into the feeling of NRL. I think he will relish it. I think he will set Kotrich up for a juicy meat pie down the edge. I think Wateni Zelezniak goes for 250 odd meters and gets a try for himself. And I think if the Titans aren't careful, you could see the likes of Luke Thompson burrow over. He's a strong runner, close to the line. If he's able to penetrate his nose through a hole, he's not going to be stopped. I sound like a moron saying it, but I'm saying Bulldogs 1-12.
And I'm saying that you're off your head. Right, okay. So here's how this is actually going to go down. Fasu Malawi, anytime try scorer. I think the Titans will try and match the Bulldogs up the middle. The Bulldogs are not an edge team. Yes, they've got talent out there in Kotrick, Shoop as well. If the hype around him is as big as his build, they're not going to want to take him. They're not going to want to take him to the edges. The Titans have got Kelly out there, Sammy, Don, even Masters is a decent player on his day. Yes, he's still trying to find form and he's still trying to get his confidence back, but he's got a point to prove. So I'm going to say that the Titans try and go up the middle, try and match him. Fasu Malawi on a short ball straight through, and Wateni Zelezniak is not tackling him. Not a chance does he stop him. So I'm going to say that's my anytime try scorer on that one. I'm going to say Titans 13 plus. The Titans this season have they've gone close in too many games. Even against the Tigers, it were only a 36-28 win. The week before that, 36-28 loss to the Broncos. The week before that, 40 points to 30 against the Rabbitohs, a loss there. The Titans need to find their form. They need to find their confidence. If this is the year that they make the 8, they need to beat teams like the Bulldogs, and they need to beat them convincingly. Otherwise, all that money that you've just thrown at the likes of Fita and Fasu Malawi and the rest of your improved roster, you might as well just not bothered. You might as well just pocket it yourself and just run it through the board. But I think Titans 13 plus here. The Bulldogs, again, just very clunky. Yes, they ran the Raiders close, but that's a Raiders side who are falling apart at the seams at the minute, it's got to be said. And the Bulldogs just could not take advantage of that, even against 12 men. So I'm going to say Titans take this one convincingly. I'm going to say 13 plus Titans on this one.
All right, Bulldogs 1-12 and Luke Thompson, mate. I'm telling you, that's what's going to happen. I thought you'd get around it. He's a pom, isn't he?
Oh. Yeah, he is, but also I can't back illogical decisions like that. I'm too much of a logical thinker. Right then, we will go to the next one because otherwise me and you are going to get into it. We will go to the Roosters versus the Broncos. Roosters, somehow all their players managed to survive round 10, which is incredible considering that you have the penalty machine himself, Jared Warrior-Hargreaves, in your lineup. You would have thought he'd been good for a few, but he's not. So we'll move past that one. Broncos, David Mead back onto the wing. It's the guys at the Broncos. They're having a good old crack at it, but it's just still not quite there. And you've seen just how good the Roosters are. Like even last week, with all the injuries that they've got, they've still got so much talent to fall back on. Marshke's doing a job out of 9. Lam and Walker, not a familiar halves pairing, but playing like they are. Is what happens when you've got 2 ball players. Like they're both running halves, and it's just they play what's in front of them. When you got someone like Radley or Takiaho or your mobile forwards like Crichton and Tupanua running off you, it's just easy just to take it to the line and try and slot one of them through a hole. You don't even have to set it up as a structured play. It's just hit the lead runner and watch him go. And that's pretty much all they did last week, and they looked good for it. And it's got to be said that if round 11 is anything like round 10, every time Tedesco touches the ball, there's going to be a penalty. And not because he's an endangered species or he's on the protected list, but because he's going to drop the knee every single time he goes to the line, and he's going to catch one round the chops, and then it's going to be a kick for touch, and then the Roosters are in good field position because that's the game we play now. That's life, unfortunately, and we need to get used to it. But I just don't see how the Broncos can defend against the Roosters. I mean, how do you see this one going?
Do you want me to pass you a shovel so you can dig a hole that's bigger than what you've already dug?
No, I quite like this hole. It's a good sturdy depth right now.
Yeah, look, I don't think there's much analysis needed for this one. Roosters are going to be, well and far away. I've got them 13 plus. Different halves pairing again for Brisbane. Albert Kelly comes in for his first game in 6 years in the NRL. He pairs up with Tyson Gamble. No Tessie New. I don't know why. He was one of Brisbane's best for the first 6 weeks. He gets dropped and isn't seen. Wouldn't surprise me if he leaves the club at the end of the year, even though he signed a new contract last year. The only way that I see this Broncos side getting over is if Coates out-jumps Ikavalu, and there's a high chance that they may put Tupou on Coates' wing. Or you have someone like a Pangai Jr. or a Payne Haas just barrel over Sam Walker. That's the only way that I see the Broncos scoring this week. I don't know what else you want to say. They do have 2 debutantes. Kobe Hetherington does have some hype around him. Keenan Palacia, a good enough player, but they're not gonna make the impact that is needed for this Broncos side to outperform what really could be still considered a bit of a second string Roosters. There's no Brett Morris, no first string half, Jersey flag hooker. Tupanua wasn't starting at this. Tupanua wouldn't be starting if Cordner was healthy. Their bench, they've got Fafita, Adam Kieran, and Nat Butcher. Butcher probably is the only one on that bench. No, and Taukeiaho as well, sorry. Butcher and Taukeiaho are starting 17. Fafita and Kieran aren't.
Yeah. No Lindsay Collins as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Big meter maker there.
It's a second string Roosters squad, and I still have them going 20 plus. Anytime try scorer. Let's go Pangai Jr.
Okay, mixing it up a little there. Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, Albert Kelly in the 6 shirt. I don't like Albert Kelly as a 6. For years, I watched him at Hull. He was a 7. He's not a runner. He's not a runner. He's a structured ball player, and that's what he's been for most of his career. And that's why he worked in the Super League, just playing as a 7, having players moving off him, showing a little bit of footwork, taking it to the line and drawing people in before giving a pass off. If you're going to have Kelly in a running 6 role, you need better players coming off him. Haas, yes, quality forward. Lodge, good for some meters. But you're coming up against Crichton, Isaac Liu, Waria Hargreaves, Taukeiaho. I've got the Roosters beating them to a man pretty much all over the field here.
Oh, hello. Matthew, you're frozen, my dear friend. He has well and truly frozen, ladies and gentlemen. So, what is going on? What have you done, Mr. Matthew? I'll tell you what. While he figures himself out, we'll keep this party rolling. I think we've both agreed here that he's going 13 plus. So we'll move on to Saturday, the 7:30 game, the Raiders and the Storm. Hopefully Matthew comes back in a little bit. The Storm with no Pappenhausen. So Nico Hines comes in. Chris Lewis, surprisingly, in the 6, ladies and gentlemen. You are not here in jeopardy. We are not trying to trick you. He's named in the 6. Brandon Smith comes into the 9. Still no Harry Grant. Aaron Penne comes onto the bench. And that's really your only other change. For the Raiders, as Matthew tries to figure out what on earth is going on. Hello, welcome back, young sir. Check your broadband. No real changes in the forward line for the Raiders, Matthew, but Sam Williams is in 5'8". Brad Schneider will come off the bench, and the Storm are going to win 20 plus. Your thoughts now that you have your Wi-Fi sorted?
Yeah, I've got dodgy UK internet. I think Brexit caused my disruption there, so we'll work past that. But we'll Raiders. I just can't see. I can't see the Raiders getting a win here. The Raiders. They looked no good against the Dogs last week. 20 points to 18. Yes, they still got a win. They're without one of their best forwards now. They're coming up against a Storm side who've got Brandon Smith back. Yes, they've got Lewis in the halves. It's another unfamiliar halves pairing. But with Smith coming back to 9, you got Kenny Bromwich back in the second row. So again, Kamikamitha now bumped to the bench. There's just too much depth. There's too much depth and strength in this Storm side for me to look past them and say that there is going to be anything but a Storm win. No Pappenhausen. He's probably not going to be back this week. I don't think he's even been named in the reserves. I didn't get a good look, but the Storm, they're too good. They're going to run amok here. I'm going to say Olam, anytime try scorer, just going over the top of Seb Chris. The Storm 13 plus for me, easy.
Yeah, completely agree. I think more realistically, Cooper Johns will come in and Chris Lewis will drop to the bench. That's probably a more realistic thing that will happen. I don't see Chris Lewis playing as a 6 when he is a second row by trade. I mean, you could go out on a limb and say maybe even Tom Eisenhuth if they're really stretched. He can play 6. Will he play 6? Probably not. Or you could bring someone like Aramea on with the side. Maybe he goes to fullback and Nico Hines goes to 6. You have some options, but as you said, Storm depth, it's just too much. They've got 2 guns, 3 guns really still in the spine with the cheese, Jerome Hughes, Nico Hines. Hines scores a double for me. I think he just slices and dices his way through Curtis Scott. Probably sets up Addo-Carr for another 2, just because they can, just because it's the Fox. They do what they want out there. Storm 20 plus.
Yeah, I'd say you take the over on this one. I think the Storm are probably going to blow them out. Yeah, I'd say that it's probably going to be about 20 plus as well. I mean, anytime, I've already picked Justin Olam as my anytime try scorer. He gets on the edges, he's just explosive. Like, you get him going at the line, there's that worry that he's going to pop it off to Addo-Carr. I can see Olam just backing himself just straight at poor Seb Chris there. And honestly, I don't think if you gave me a blank check and said put a number there and Justin Olam runs as hard as he can at you, I don't think I'd fill that check in. Like, he's just ridiculous. He's so strong. And any time he does that, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a line break. And that's why Addo-Carr is as successful as he is, because people have to come in and number up on Olam because of how strong he is close to the line. But yeah, I join your line of thinking. I'm saying back the over on this one because Storm are going to have a field day.
All right. I'm taking hosting duties for the Sunday game because I don't trust your internet. I don't know if you're with Npower or whoever, but I don't trust your internet anymore. Moving on to Sunday, let's take on the Rabbitohs out at Dubbo. The Rabbitohs are big in with Latrell Mitchell back at fullback after a 4-game suspension. Josh Mansour also back onto the wing. That means Walker's back in the 6, Benji to the bench. That is pretty much it for the Bunnies. They are 1-17 otherwise. As for the Panthers, Capewell will return to the starting 13, Liam Martin to the bench, and Jermaine Hopgood, the Panther, Matthew, goes to the bench. Paul Montmorency yet again sitting in the 21 with Burton doing well enough to hold his spot in the centres. If I didn't know that Parramatta was playing Manly, I would have said this will be the match of the round, but I've still got the Panthers going 13 plus. You can't stop them. You just can't stop the Panthers right now. You take them wherever you want. You change your game plan. They're impossible to contain. You've got Toto. When he has a quiet game, you have Staines. When he has a quiet game, Crichton's coming up. You've got Burton almost scoring at will. Cleary had a freaking hat trick last week. Jerome Luai's the informed 6 in the game. And that's just your backs. You haven't spoken about Kickow, who's just dominant. Capewell, serviceable. Yo, another strong year. Api Coruscant, rep hooker. Fisher Harris is probably your starting prop for New South Wales this year, and then Moses Leota having a fantastic year, and what's his first year starting? How do you stop that team?
You don't, and that's why I'm also backing Panthers 13+. I mean, why have they dropped Benji Marshall to the bench? I get that you can't drop Walker, you can't drop Reynolds. I'd almost say that with how they were playing over the last few weeks, there's a better argument for you stick Mitchell in the centre and you drop Braden Burns and you have Mitchell and Mansour out on your flank instead, and you keep Walker at fullback with Marshall in the 6, and then if you need to, you drop Mitchell back to fullback. I just think you're trying to make Mitchell fit. Look at some of the passes that Benji threw last week. How the hell are you going to justify benching a player that does that? Like, there's no justification for it. If it's not broke, you don't fix it. And having someone like Benji Marshall can only be a good thing against a Panthers side that's got young players in who've maybe not picked up some of those tricks of the trade. I mean, you saw Benji throw a cutout pass that skipped 3 players and put Johnston into the corner. I don't think there's many halfbacks in the game playing right now who can do that or have that vision going at the line. You watch Benji's eyes, he's not looking where Johnston is. His eyes are fixed on the line. They're convinced that he's taking the ball to the line. And instead he just throws a wonder pass. And you bench him this week. It's a terrible decision. Don't make the team fit just because you've just got Latrell Mitchell back. Make Latrell Mitchell earn his spot back. Walker did the job at fullback. Keep Marshall in the 6. Run with Reynolds at the 7. If you need Latrell Mitchell in your side, stick him in the centre. Make him earn the fullback shirt back. Because even when Latrell Mitchell has been at fullback, Latrell Mitchell's not been looking like the player who's on the money that he is at South. So, for me, earn your spot back, mate. I think he's very fortunate to be straight back there in the 1 shirt. It's a little bit of a disservice on Benji for my part, but again, with that change as well, I'd just say the Panthers run riot here. You got the big boys going up the middle. Kaloa Matungi, he's been great for Souths. Sewer, great player. Knight, serviceable. But you're coming up against Leota, Fisher Harris, Kickout, Martin. It's just the depth of talent in that Panthers side is just. It's ridiculous. You can't combat it. There's no way of combating it.
You do know that before Latrell was suspended, he was 4 points clear at the top of the Dally M, right?
I know that, but I still think that Latrell's just not living up to that hype. Not compared to, if you look at Latrell at South now and compare him to Latrell that was playing when he first came onto the scene at the Roosters, it's shades. Like there's elements of his play there, but there's still those silly errors. There's still that attitude there that's going to really hamper him. So I think Latrell's still got a little bit of growth to do, and I think he's probably got more room for growth in the centres right now than he does at fullback.
I'm just going to leave that hanging there. Yeah, who's your anytime try scorer, mate, while you dig your hole even deeper?
I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say, oh, God, I'm going to say Staines. I'm just going to throw Staines in there. No real conviction to that one. I just think that probably Panthers are a good side for creating numbers. They're good at being able to work their opportunities. I think that Staines just gets into a position where he just walks into the corner. So yeah, that's where I'm going to go on that one.
All right. Yeah. I'm gonna hold on to your wingers sentiment, but go Mansell up against his old side, the side that told him you're not welcome here. You'll be playing Razzies next year. He left. He found a starting gig. He comes up against the side and probably against the man who kicked him out of that starting 13 in, Charlie, who's not a very good defender. Comes in, jams in the line. I'm going the Sauce at 225. I reckon he'll go on for a cheeky pie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a decent shout. Can't say I'm mad at it. Yeah. Okay then.
Let's move on. Parramatta. Oh, the team of the year. The Parramatta Eels up against the Manly Sea Eagles. It is the game of the round. There is no question about it. That's not me being biased, but you go Turbo against Gutho. You've got Sivo against Saab. You've got Arthur against Cust. I think two running halves. Moses against Daly. You've got Gamble Gillard and Paulo against Paseka and Tapau. Papali'i, Madison against Olakawatu and Schuster. Brown against Trebojevic for potentially the lock spot in the New South Wales side. That I'm just going to throw that one out there. I think Nathan Brown is the New South Wales lock this year, based on form. You can make an argument that if Tommy Turbo is at fullback, you put Jake Trebojevic there. But with Tedesco at fullback, Bradley's not going to be the 13. He has not looked the same like he has for the last couple of years. There is no Cam Murray. He's out. Who's your other form lock? It's Nathan Brown. Unless you put Dale Finucane in there, but Finucane hasn't been playing like a starting 13. So you go an 80-minute lock, Brown. But anyways, we put that aside. Parramatta coming off a win against the Warriors. The Sea Eagles coming off an absolute demolishing last week. They're looking to keep their form going. Mr. Matthew Wright, you already know I'm tipping the Parramatta Eels. Who are you going with?
I think Manly edge this one. I think the Eels. Yeah, I think the Eels have probably hit their wall at this point. You know, you got two form teams. Every time these two meet, it's absolute fireworks. 1916 in that controversial game last year, 22-18. You know, so in the last two, they won a piece. On form, Eels have won the last 5. Sea Eagles lost just one, and that's coming up against the Panthers. I think that this time the Sea Eagles pinch it. I just get the sneaking suspicion. It is just a gut feeling. I think with how Trebojevic have been playing, you know, Arthur looked good in the 6 shirt. No doubt he looked good. But again, they were really reliant on their running halves. Moses set up, you know, RCG. It was just him going at the line and finding a gap. Arthur, for his try again, crabbing the line, found a gap. Yes, it is what good halves do. I just think that when it came to structured play, the Eels were maybe just not as good looking when it came to that. So I'd say that the Sea Eagles at the minute are just looking a little bit more structured. We're having Trebojevic back, and I'd say that they're going to take this 1-12. I'd say that you even push it as low as there's no more than a try in this one. I think if you can get the Sea Eagles on a plus anything, you just take that on the handicap.
I don't really like you right now, just so you know. For those that are look, Manly plus 7.5 is a huge shout. I do not disagree with you there. I do think that Manly probably covers that line. Parramatta are just the informed side. Manly relied too much on Tom Trebojevic. If, it's a big if Parramatta can just remotely shut down Trebojevic, they win. It's as simple as that. There's no if, and, or but about it. The last time, I'm going through the head-to-head, I'm going as far back as 2013. So when Parramatta were dead last. That's the last time that Parramatta lost against Manly at home. The home record is solid. Parramatta, yes, they got beat by Manly at Lottoland last year. Yes, they got beat by Manly at Lottoland in 2019 and in 2018. But over the last 10 years, even when Manly were in premiership years, Parramatta have held the edge. They've won. We're going back from the start of 2014. Manly have won 4 out of, I can't do math here, 4 out of about 16 or 18 games. And every single one since 2014, Manly have won at Lottoland. They're at Parramatta's Fortress. They're at Bankwest. It will be a high-scoring game. It will be, the line at the moment, and this is Sportsbet 10:20 on a Tuesday night. Take it for what you will. The line we've already said is 7.5. Total match points, 45.5. I'd probably like to see that at a 42 if I'm going to take the over, to be completely honest. But I'm going Parramatta 1-6. It's going to be close. Trbojevic is going to score. He always finds a way to score against Parramatta. But if they can contain the speed of Saab, if they can somehow limit Trbojevic to just a little, like half of his impact, and he's still one of the top 3 fullbacks in the world, but the half the impact of what he had and has had the last 4 weeks, Parramatta win it. They have a superior forward pack. They have superior centres. Opachit is, for whatever reason, in line for a Queensland berth this year. That's how good he's playing. Mitch Moses is the better halfback over Daly Cherry Evans on club form at the moment. On club form at the moment, Moses is better than Cherry Evans. You have 2 inexperienced 5'8"s. You have 2 inexperienced second rowers when you compare that to Papali'i and Ryan Madison for Manly. I think that they exploit the edge. They exploit Cade Cust for his defensive worries. I think Maddo goes over. I think Papali'i goes over. I think Turbo scores. I'm calling it those 3. And Parramatta, we'll say Parramatta 1-12 just for easy math. I'm throwing that one in a multi. I'm throwing that in the same game multi if you can do that with whoever you bet with. Gamble responsibly, obviously. But if you throw those 3 in, let's see if I can do it real quick. Maddo, Ryan Madison, Isaiah Papali'i, Tommy Trbojevic, who's paying $2.20, mind you, to score at any time, and Parramatta 1-12. If it will let me. Matthew, do you want to give your anytime try scorers while I throw this into a multi?
Yeah, I'm just going to go with an easy pick. It's going to be Saab for me. It's just anytime you get him loose on the edge, Saab's going to line up against Wonga Blake and Blake Ferguson. All that's going to happen is Blake's going to bite in. Ferguson's going to come with him. Saab gets onto the edge, and there's not a chance you're going to catch Jason Saab. They're talking about bringing back the NRL sprint race, and they want to see Addo Carr versus Saab. That's how fast he is, because there's big questions as to who is the fastest right now. So, yeah, the Seagulls create the numbers on the edge. Saab goes over. I'm going to say you back the under on that line that you gave there. So I'd say Saab anytime. Seagulls 1-12 or the plus 7.5 if you're feeling a little bit more cautious about it, and then back the under. I don't see there being a lot of points in this one. The last 2, 19-16, 22-18, neither one of them going over 40 points. So that's where I go with that one.
For those who go Papali'i, Maddo, Turbo, Para 1-12, that pays $69. Nice. If you add Saab into it, $121.
Okay, and value. Big value.
Big value.
No. But no, I think that's all our tips for this week then. All the team lists have been ran through to the best of my limited ability. Looks pretty good at this. I'm terrible. But no, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week to take you through the team list again. We will see you over the weekend as well, as we'll be covering off the Rugby League report as well, covering off news from Serbia, America, the NRL, and Super League. So if you have enjoyed, please feel free to leave a like, leave a comment, and join us next time, and we'll see you then.